And let's now turn our focus to Pakistan's best friend, China, where the Wuhan virus is spreading like wildfire. At least 90%, I repeat, 90% of people in Henan have been infected. This is where the province is located on the map. It is home to 99.4 million people, and at least 88.5 million of them are currently down with the Wuhan virus. I'm not making up this number. This is according to official figures from the director of the Health Commission for Central Henan province. This is a scale that's honestly hard to imagine. 90%. Because unless you're watching us from China, you wouldn't know what it means to have 90% of people around you sick. But what I can tell you tonight is what a sick China means for you and your families. I will begin by reminding you that China has dropped its travel restrictions. As of 8th of January, China has gone back to business as usual. At least as far as international travel is concerned, those coming into China do not need to quarantine anymore, which makes it easier for people living in China to travel outside. And travel is what a lot of the Chinese are planning to do. Look at the long queues outside the immigration office in Beijing. People are all waiting to submit their passport applications for renewal. Many are applying for fresh passports.
Due to the industry that I'm in, there are certain links that need to be made with the outside world, so I'll have to travel out more.
Yes, I have been waiting because of the pandemic. Now I'm looking forward to traveling and seeing more of Japan.
But is everyone comfortable with the idea of people coming in from China, entering their borders at a time when provinces are falling sick en masse? Some people say they find the idea a little scary.
Japan is still one of the top countries in the world in terms of the number of infected people. So I think it's necessary to some extent to protect not only us, but also overseas customers.
Thailand too is preparing for the influx of Chinese tourists. The country is expecting 7 to 10 million Chinese visitors in the coming months. 7 to 10 million. The first flight with Chinese tourists arrived in Thailand today. How many of them do you think were infected? I ask this solely because of what is happening inside China. Last week on the show, we told you about Shanghai, where 75% of residents are estimated to be infected. We told you that even if we take a conservative estimate, it won't be wrong to say that at least 50% of China is currently infected, if the situation in other cities is similar to Shanghai. Turns out the reality is worse. We are talking about 90% of people being infected. So let's go back to our old formula again. Let's once again consider a conservative number. Let's say Henan is an exception and that the situation in all of the other provinces isn't all that bad. And 70% of people are infected, not 90%. That still leaves us with 70% of the entire population infected. 70% of 1.4 billion, 7 in 10 people, 7 in 10 travelers. What does that mean for you? Do the maths. Some 245 flights are going out of China daily. That's less than 10% of the pre-pandemic traffic. But scary enough, if one is to assume that 7 in every 10 passengers in these flights may be infected with the Wuhan virus, or with new variants that the world does not know much about yet. And remember, China isn't exactly sharing data with the world. Henan's major international airport is located in its capital city, Zhengzhou. And from there, you have flights taking off for Singapore, Sydney, Manila, Seoul, which means Henan is indirectly connected to all major cities of the world. There are routes which the Wuhan virus can take to travel and reinfect the world. There are flights that it can board. Flights to Singapore, Seoul, Shanghai, Sydney. They're all operational already. But who do you think is traveling in these flights? One would assume the people of this very province, the people of Henan, but some 90% of them are infected with the Wuhan virus. So who is traveling? Let's not forget that China is not doing its bit in screening passengers, else the flights that landed in Milan wouldn't have nearly 50% of the passengers test positive. Same with the flights that landed in Taiwan last week. So China is letting infected people travel abroad. And last I checked, there were less than 5 seats left on one of the flights to Sydney departing on the 11th of January. Less than 5 seats. In one of the flights to Seoul, same with Bangkok. You know what this means, right? WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.